Fam, again, not a very good day for Julius Mkhwanazi, Deputy Chief of the Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Police Department. Have a look at how he was slammed at the Madlanga Commission.
Facilitation is saving. To fight about this. Facilitation is saving prison. Commissioners, you are there, me. I can't agree to leave my kids and go to jail for something that I didn't do. I didn't put blue lights. I must say, I can't.
Nobody.
I may want to be honest and impress you, but not with lies.
Nobody has said anything about jail, Commissioner.
This is a commission of inquiry. You will be making recommendation. I will be sitting somewhere, and I won't see you that. I will see you after 10 years or 50 years.
And Commissioner, to be fair to you, I don't think anybody is suggesting that you physically got the blue lights and fitted them on Mr. Matlala's vehicles. I don't think anybody is suggesting that.
Commissioners, on your side, yes, but that side, it's different. Even yesterday, you assisted me when I was lost, agreeing about that letter that you submitted, a letter to Chief of Police. I was saying it's English. I was lost. Up until you said, no, man, this is 20. I said, oh, but you said you didn't remember. I said, in fact, there you were so fair to me because I was lost, and you were able to assist me. And at night, when I was with you, I said, but they're fair. They assisted me where I was lost. Thank you for that.
I didn't mean to interrupt because we don't have enough time. But because of the debate about facilitation, yes, I thought it's only fair that I take you to the documents so that you can understand what the allegation is.
Oh, yes.
And now that I've done that and we've agreed that this is what you did, and give the time back to advocates.
Yeah, so it's never a good thing at a commission of inquiry when you start debating with the commissioners whether you're going to jail or not. And that's exactly the position Julius Mkhwanazi found himself in. Remember, he's been suspended now because of some of these allegations. Yesterday, he had a prolonged testimony, which I analyzed, so go back and check that out. But today, he continued to try and explain away this blue light saga, and his story was, remember, Cat Matlala miraculously found himself with blue lights on his vehicles. There were social media videos of his partner driving around with these blue lights to, I think, pick her kids up from school. And of course, this became a major scandal. Now, Julius Mkhwanazi is alleged to have been the person who made that possible for Cat Matlala. So he tried to explain it today by saying, look, I wasn't the person who physically put the blue lights on the cars. But that's not really what anyone has been alleging. No one said that Julius Mkhwanazi took out a screwdriver and put the blue lights on the cars himself. The whole allegation was that he was the figure who made it possible by authorizing the blue lights, and he was forced to admit that was the case. He spoke to a certain Mr. Stain within the Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Police Department to register these cars under the police department, and of course once they were registered under the police department they could then be fitted with these blue lights, which gave rise to the situation where private company was using public and benefiting from public power, something that should be exclusively in the public domain. So it became very clear today that Mkhwanazi's story on the blue lights just didn't add up. But it became a little bit more worrying and pernicious. In other words, verging on evil. Because we heard about money that was exchanged between Cat Matlala and Julius Mkhwanazi. And quite frankly, this is kind of where things move from the realm of suspicion to the realm of what the heck was going on. Because Advocate Silo SC asked a question, a devastating question, and she had the receipts to back up her question. She said, Mr. Mkhwanazi, Brigadier Mkhwanazi, have you ever received money from Cat Matlala? And Mkhwanazi said, yeah, look, we became very close, which is also concerning exactly as to how that happened, given the allegations Matlala's facing. But yeah, he gave me money and I gave him money and it was fine. And then Advocate Silla was like, oh, okay. What if I told you, hey, when a lawyer says, what if I told you, head for the hills. What if I told you that I've got bank records which show that 20,000 was paid from one of Matlala's companies, and then 30,000, and then another 20,000. And then suddenly Mkhwanazi had to admit that, yes, I have received this money from Cat Matlala's companies. What was a police chief doing getting money from a private company in the first place? The police has to be sacrosanct. We can't have police officers and police chiefs, for that matter, just getting money from random companies. What if those companies are involved in criminality, which has ended up actually being the case here? Then you have a clear, serious conflict of interest. Yay, guys. Julius Mkhwanazi made it sound like first, we were just splitting the bill at Spur. Then all of a sudden it turns out, no, Cat Matlala bought ribs for everyone in the restaurant. Now Spur must actually sponsor as well. No, man. Like, he downplayed this. Like, I love how the witnesses at these commissions downplay things, trying to use language. Like, a tsunami happens, and then he's like, yeah, there was just a little bit of water here. Hey, he got paid tens of thousands by Cat Matlala's companies. Cat Matlala had Julius Mkhwanazi on payroll, fam. That's what emerged at the commission today, and Mkhwanazi was unable to dispute those claims. So yeah, it went from we just help each other to Netflix crime documentary very quickly. So now, Julius Mkhwanazi's testimony has ended, and really, the Ekurhuleni side of the story presents a sordid tale of how at least one section or one faction of an entire metropolitan police department was in the pocket of Cat Matlala. Of course, today what also happened was Minister Senzo Mchunu took the stand. And for me, the end of today and Mchunu's testimony in general might be one of the most important turning points of this commission, and indeed in South African politics. Because, of course, before you actually give your testimony, there's always a certain amount of doubt. Maybe you have some good explanation as to why you took the decisions you took. But today, I would urge you to go back on the SMWX stream and watch the parts where Senzo Mchunu faces a barrage of questions from Justice Madlanga. We've got two of the main characters in this whole saga. Madlanga, who leads this commission, and Senzo Mchunu, the minister who started all of this with his disbandment letter of the 31st of December, entering into quite a robust dialogue for a long time, around an hour. And really what Minister Mchunu did today was a couple of things. First, he tried to explain that he had the legal power to take the decision that he took. He said, well, after South Africa became a constitutional democracy, it was important for the police to be placed under the control of politicians who are democratically elected, not just the police commissioner who is appointed. The police commissioner is appointed by the democratically elected politicians anyway, but he tried to paint this picture of how he had the power to disband the Political Killings Task Team. And after painting the picture that he had the legal power to do what he did on the 31st of December last year, he then laid out a host of reasons as to why he took that decision. He said, well, there was a lack of focus because the Political Killings Task Team was doing the same thing as the Murder and Robbery Unit, and we should have just integrated the Political Killings Task Team, which was focused on one geographical area, into the whole country. And he said the Political Killings Task Team this is the Task Team General Mkhwanazi was really largely responsible for, in addition to General Khumalo. He said, no, it cost a lot of money, so we also needed to divert resources because the budget is shrinking. By the way, ANC politicians, why is the budget shrinking? Then he told us that, no, look. When he said immediately, he didn't mean immediately. He meant like immediately-ish. So not now, but like now. You know, like when you're on your way to a a thing and you're like 5 minutes, I'll be there in 5 minutes, but not really 5 minutes, like 15 to 20 to 30. You know that friend who always tells you they're 5 minutes away, but it's actually 30 minutes? That's what Mchunu said he meant in his letter. And then he said, look, it was a decision, but it wasn't like a decision. It was like a decision, but you can still undo the decision after I take the decision. So like I decide that we do this, but then you can tell me that we shouldn't do it, but I've already decided. But it was just to create pressure to say I've decided. To be honest, none of this really added up. And so it was around these issues that Madlanga took him on. And I want you to have a look at how Madlanga, in the final clip that I have for you, went at Mchunu on these issues.
Minister, I have a serious difficulty with that answer. You see, if you were giving us that answer having consulted with them and they had said this before you took the decision, your answer would make sense. Your answer does not make sense because it's something that you get to know after you had taken that decision. So on that basis, I say, or I suggest to you, Minister, that your answer does not make sense. Would you accept that? You knew nothing about what General Masemula would say after you had taken that decision. So that means nothing insofar as your decision is concerned. Do you accept?
See, the problem for Minister Mchunu is this ain't Parliament, where some MPs have only half read the documents and all of that. No. Justice Madlanga is renowned for his cross-examination when he was an advocate. I was lucky enough to be at his farewell dinner when he left the Concord bench. And many of the people who got up and spoke about how he was feared for his cross-examination. And in fact, you can witness his cross-examination at the Madlanga Commission, where he posed questions, interestingly, to the then police commissioner, Ria Piecha. So Madlanga is going to cross-examine the minister. It's actually very rare that we get to see someone who's holding public power in our country cross-examined to this level of detail and scrutiny. Usually in Parliament, the president and ministers can slip out of questioning because of the way that Parliament's questioning works and stuff. You can't really do question, answer. You have to ask a long question and they give a long answer. But now we have the benefit of a seasoned judge questioning a very powerful minister. And so far it's not going well, one would have to concede, for Minister Mchunu. And that was just a taste. On this question of immediately, again, questions were posed. And I want to take you back to the text of this letter, because Minister Mchunu has tried to tell us that immediately didn't mean immediately and decision didn't mean decision. But take a look at the letter. The text itself will speak. He says, quote, "My observation is that further existence of this team," the task team that was disbanded, "is no longer required, nor is it adding any value to policing in South Africa. I therefore direct that the political killings task team be disestablished immediately." So let's stop there. Where were all those explanations that he gave us at the commission? Where's all the stuff about the budget and the legal power and the fact that there's a murder and robbery unit and all of that? If those were really his reasons, why didn't he tell us back then? It feels like he has invented reasons that sound good after the fact. And unfortunately, that's post hoc reasoning. After the fact reasoning. He didn't tell us any of those reasons in this letter. He just said, I think this thing's adding no value, it must go immediately. And then he says in the letter, further, a preliminary report in this regard must be submitted to the minister within 20 days. The final closing report must be submitted in late January. So at best for the minister, he said this thing must be closed out within a month. But at worst, and I'm increasingly coming over to this view, he meant this thing must be disbanded now. And give me a report as to how you disbanded it. We'll discuss that report and then tell me the closing report about how it got finally disbanded. But there's just no way around this language. There's this famous legal maxim, a verbis legis non est recedendum. From the word of the law, there is no retreat. In other words, it means you cannot invent a fiction out of language which clearly states something that is incontrovertible. This letter says this thing must go immediately. And the minister didn't provide any reasons back then. So he faced a lot of questioning around this, and it's going to be very difficult for him to stretch the interpretation of this letter to mean something it doesn't mean. Now, what do we have coming up tomorrow? We've got probably an even more important day, because today we only just started getting into really the direct questioning on the minister's ideas. A couple of things have to happen tomorrow, and two of them, for me, are pivotal. I'm literally not even joking, for the future of politics in this country. One is, we need to know about the consultations that were held with the president. What did the president know and what didn't he know? Remember, he established this interministerial committee, which then itself told the national commissioner to establish a political killings task team. So how could the president be involved in the establishment but not know about the disestablishment? We've heard Lamola saying he tried to reach the president. We've heard Mchunu say he briefed the president. And what we need to know is, did the president know about this disbandment before, during, or after? And when did he know? And what did he do when he knew? And we need to get Mchunu's answers on that, because we didn't quite get the answer clear in Parliament. Secondly, because this commission has access to Cat Matlala's phone, we know from previous questioning, are there any direct links or direct communications between Matlala and the minister? And how will the minister explain that if there are? If not direct links, are there indirect links? Well, we actually already know they're indirect links, because there are people who speak or use the minister's name, especially Brown Mokgotsi, kind of purporting to be intermediating between the two. We know that Begicele said when he met Cat Matlala, Matlala told him that he had been part of a meeting to fund Senzo Mchunu's political campaign. So tomorrow is the day when we need to learn, or where it needs to be disproven, that there really is a link between the minister and Cat Matlala, and what he has to say about that. He has vehemently denied it. At Parliament, he brought an affidavit from Matlala to say that there's no link. But this time we have a commission that has access to all kinds of evidence, and I will be fascinated to see whether the commission can adduce evidence which fundamentally changes that picture. Because if they can show us CCTV footage or cell phone records or message records which show that Mchunu is not being truthful about the Matlala relationship, then that is going to have serious political consequences. By the same token, if they can't, then that is in some ways going a long way to exonerating Mchunu from at least that specific claim about a direct relationship with Cat Matlala. So tomorrow we'll learn which way it goes. Fam, keep it locked on SMWX. Help us reach 400,000 subscribers. Keep watching all the videos, the streams. If you enjoyed this analysis, we've got a whole trove of other analysis videos which can help you interpret and understand what's going on. We do daily analysis summaries of these commissions. If you're listening on podcast platforms, give us a rating over there. Drop a super thanks down below. Drop a comment down below. And make sure to keep it locked on SMWX, the Citizens Broadcaster. Bye.